After July 2015, the time of Issiais' defeat, the PFR region had a time of peace. Many members spent time with their family and friends while going on occasional side missions. Julio was sent on a special mission with the new PFR trainees Miguel and Spas. The team was being led by a man named Sensei Won, a man Cruise admired for his fighting technique. Won had his team wait in a tall building as he stood outside. While everyone looked down at him from the top floor, the windows locked shut and the building burst into flames. Won tasked everyone to make it to the bottom floor without destroying any walls. After a few minutes, they all escaped in different fashions. Won graded their performance to act under sudden pressure. Julio scored an A, escaping without any panic. Miguel scored a B using his craft to escape but took a long time. Spas got an F by freaking out and panicking. Miguel and Julio passed the trail and move on as Spas was removed from the PFR training course. The next trail, Julio and Miguel were introduced to Won's newest creation, Project Mimic. Mimic could transform into a glass figure of anyone in its held DNA. Mimic currently held all the most powerful PFR members' DNA. Won made defeating Mimic the boys' final trail. Julio used his fighting ability to take on Mimic, and Miguel crafted monsters to fight in his place. Mimic transforms into Prince and punches Julio into the wall. Julio pushes back and clashes against it. Miguel's crafted dragon attacks from behind, and Mimic grabs the dragon and uses as a weapon slams Miguel into the ground. Julio fights back until Mimic shifts into promises and causes Julio to hesitate, and he gets hair whipped and struck in the stomach, causing him to fall. Miguel gets up and crafts an ant to crawl through the ground and attack Mimic from below. Mimic breaks out the hold and splits the ant in two and quickly knees Miguel against the wall and knocks him out. It then turns his attention to Julio and starts punching him down multiple times. Julio tries to hold back his water powers, but the attacks were too much, and he aqua punches Mimic across the room, and Water Dragon kicks it directly in the head, causing it to shatter. Won notices that Julio was not human and was planning to disqualify him, but instead rewarded both the boys for making it this far. Julio and Miguel passed the graduation, and Won set off to complete Mimic's design. Days after the training session, Cruise helped the PFR Coliseum battles. The PFR members battle other members of their skill level. Many citizens gathered for this amazing event. The first match was set between Oak Beats and Nino, the two tacticians of the group. After a battle of strategic counters, Nino managed to get the edge on Beats and defeat him in a close match. The second round was between Ace and Los, the two support characters of the group. In a surprising twist, the Wind Elemental dropped the Dark Elemental with quite a lead. The third match was between the offense and defense of the team Prince versus KO. After an explosive battle, Prince had won. So they thought. With Jessica and Leah cheering from the stands, KO managed to get a second win and defeat Prince in the close battle. The fourth match was set between Cruise and Bang, a match everyone was waiting to see. However, before the match started, Promises informs Cruise Bang went to sleep moments before the battle and won't be awake for several months. The final match was cancelled, and everyone cheered for the great matches. Days later, KO spent more time with Leah, knowing she was killed in the other timeline by Gargula. Oak Beats hung out with Cruise and Tishorn. Julio spent a lot of time entering and exiting the Antiverse for an unknown reason. Prince was visited by one of the angels who scolded him for losing the match. The angel took Prince to Olympus to be trained by the gods and channel his power better. The next night, Cruise, Beats and Tishorn were having a hangout at PFR Tower. Suddenly something fell from the sky and landed in the distance. The team rushed towards it and see two open space pods. After looking around, they see two masked figures standing in the area. Once Cruise approached them, they said, "You must be the elementals? Our pods traced the highest power level on this planet." The two figures announced their names as Xel and Phantom. Cruise asked what do they want. Phantom replied, "Our prince will be arriving in the name of his family in 4 days. He sent us early to give you warning and to prepare yourself before he destroys this planet." The team stood in shock as they thought they were done with the demons. Xel tells the team to use their time wisely, and both float away. Cruise was unsure if they were being truthful, but didn't take the chance and sent all PFR to train before the 4 days was up. All the members went to train in different ways. Julio went to train with Won, KO went to the simulation chamber with Diego, and Jeline trained with Cruise. On the second day, a new member named Beast made it through Sensei Wont's training program and graduated to becoming a PFR member. Beast wanted to get stronger fast and requested to train under KO and Promises and did so. On the final day, KO pushed himself through harsh simulations. The Simbots started to overwhelm KO and slowly started to crush him. Once he was completely consumed, the burst of ice covered the room. Once Diego looks up, he is in sight of long silver hair and a completely buffed form of KO. KO had attained the form unseen by his generation. Time grew short and it was time for the arrival of the Demon Prince. Everyone rushed to PFR Tower where Xel and Phantom stood. Everyone looked up to see the sky shifting and clouds forming a funnel. Seconds later, a figure appeared out of flaming clouds and stood above the members. The figure says, "So this is the group that killed my brother and shamed our family name?" Promises replied, "Issiais had a brother?" The figure replies, "Issiais? That foolish female form he stole from a queen. He always let power and false emotions go to his head. I'm sure that lead to his downfall." The demon revealed his name to be Issiais, the oldest of the demon princes. Issiais shows that he is much stronger than Issiais and sends a beam towards the ground, slicing the PFR tower in two. Beast burst into rage seeing his home destroyed and rushes towards the demon. Issiais creates a triangle around Beats and hellfire raises around him. Cruise dashes in the heat and pulls Beats out. The team stands in shock of his power and Issiais takes off to destroy the part of Earth he hates most and not to follow him. Cruise calls a meeting to HQ immediately. The team discuss a plan to attack Issiais. The team came to no direct conclusion and the night had passed. The next morning, devastating news was heard on TV. Issiais had burned southern PFR to the ground. Cruise stood up in anger, feeling he could have stopped it. Cruise said a plan is needed now. KO suggested fusion, but Cruise reminded KO Prince isn't here and Beats and Tishorn went off to a place called Homie World. Beast suggested a sneak attack. Cruise agreed but said they need to fill out the demon's strength. Diego had a device that could measure his power if he can scan long enough. KO, Beast, Jolene, and Lost rushed to Hardwell where Issiais currently was. Promises gives Beast a portion of her strength so he will survive the ambush. Once the team gets ready to ambush, Xel reads a description of each of the members in the area. The ambush fails and Issiais appears above them. Jolene uses his speed to strike Issiais in the back, but suddenly black ashes cover Jolene's body and they transform into needles digging into Jolene's skin. Beast goes for a follow-up but gets knocked back by Phantom. The team gather each other back up and transform to fight Xel and Phantom. Jolene and Beast rush after Xel, going into a deep clash. Jolene tries to use speed to close in on Xel, but the damage from earlier leaves him wide open for her to blast him to the ground. Beast sneaks in with a heavy punch but trips and gets swung down. In the other battle, Lost and KO launch some good attacks against Phantom. Phantom starts to play more distant, and catches Lost and KO off guard and locks them into a daze. Suddenly they individually start fighting Phantom. After a minute, KO and Lost figure out they are fighting each other and caught under Phantom's attack. Both stop the attack and start removing Phantom from their mind. While Xel is fighting Beast, he unleashes his long ice style. Green fire held up and surrounds her in a pillar of green flames and drops massive rocks on top of her. Xel takes minimal damage and throws a rose field onto the ground, and they quickly turn black and explode on Jolene and Beast. In the distance, Cruise, Promises, and Diego were scanning the fighters to learn about them. Phantom used mental abilities and attacked the mind. Xel used explosive flower petals that cover a wide range. While they were scanning, Issiais appears above them and grabs Diego with one hand. Everyone turns towards and asks him to stop. Cruise acts by striking Issiais with a bolt and Promises grabs Diego and dashes off to Promised Land. Cruise electrifies the field and tells all his members to escape quickly. He will fight the demons. Once everyone escapes, Cruise puts up a wall and makes his own escape. The team heal in the land of Promises Fountain overnight as Diego tries to get results. During the night, the PFR find the entire East City had been engulfed in flames. Julia was most affected as one lived there and was probably killed in the attack. Julia ran off as a PFR attempt to find the weak point. The demon's next target was Saffron City, and just as Issiais was holding the destructive flame sphere, Nino stood on the tallest building. Nino held his gun towards the demons, and Xel swiftly attacks him and sends Nino flying through buildings in the distance. Issiais then proceeds throwing the attack, and burns all of Santanah to the ground. Hours later, Issiais reaches the area of the region with Chinese culture. He caught smell of the food, and enjoyed the orange chicken it offered. He decided to destroy this area last. As he flew off towards a nearby forest, Julio cuts off their route. Julio wants to fight in vengeance of his friend Won. Phantom stood in front of Julio and battled him. Phantom was failing to land any hits as Julio was beating him. Antimatter was dripping from Julio's body and doing more damage than usual. Phantom suddenly got kicked so hard he stumbled to the ground. Xel jumps down and takes on Julio and gets a similar result. Xel gets a hole in her side and the antimatter slows the healing. Issiais waits till the battle is over before he steps in and slashes Julio, cutting a deadly wound down his chest. Julio's eyes turn white and hit the ground. Issiais' next destination is Future City. He holds out his hand and starts preparing the destructive flame until Colo and Promises arrives. Colo yells out, "Put the ball down, Issiais, I am here to vanquish both of your demons." Issiais sends both Xel and Phantom down in a weakened state. Promises ask if he will be okay, and Colo replies, "Don't worry, I have a plan." Once the demons surround him, he hopes the alumni form will activate. Unfortunately, the form doesn't channel, and everyone stares at Colo waiting for something to happen. Colo notices the flaw and transforms into fantasy form and punches Xel back and challenges them anyway. He does a decent job fighting the demons back. Once an opening appears, Colo freezes the ground and locks Xel and Phantom in place, and in a sudden snowstorm blast a massive silver ice beam that wipes into the area and blasts the demons. Once the dust fades, Colo hears heavy breathing behind him as Xel, covered in frost, blasts a flaring spiral into Colo's back, and Phantom creates a mark on the floor that summons a flam storm all around. Colo burning him inside. Colo weakly crawls out the hole and lays silent as Promises steps in to help. Promises battles Phantom mostly as she gathers power from nature and attempts to blast him until it is redirected and blast herself. Phantom sends a skyward flame that slashes into Promises and knocks her by Colo. Issiais proceeds to create the destructive flame and throws it down on the team. As Colo and Promises are about to get hit, a beam strikes them and they materialize in Promised Land. Diego created a device that can transport things within his radius. Issiais then flies off to the next city once Future City is destroyed. Cruz noticed most of his team is in injury and he needed to act quick. Cruz rushed to Issiais' next location and challenged him himself. They go into a heated battle as Xel and Phantom watch for interference. Suddenly black rocks fly at the demons. Once they hit, Lost goes in for a direct attack. Phantom catches him off guard and the two tag team and knock him into the forest. Phantom attempts a breach in Lost mind until he is blasted in the head by a sniper bullet filled with toxins. Once everyone turned around, they see Nino on a rooftop. Xel dashes to attack but hits a clone strapped with bombs, and they explode her to the ground. Nino stands above her, telling her not to mess with Saffron right before shotgunning her down, killing off the two demons. Upon seeing both of his guards die, Issiais quickly created another destructive flame. Cruz grabbed Lost and Nino and flashed to the first place he could think of. In mere seconds, Cruz drops his members in Rhapsody. Issiais flies in rage as he appears over the city. Issiais expresses his anger as his guards were killed without honor. To honor his family name, he challenges Cruz to a battle to the death. As Cruz gets ready for battle, Promises along with Colo drop in to assist. Cruz and Colo rush him together and battle Issiais. The demon managed to hold of both Colo and Cruz with ease. The team continued to hold out for a few more minutes. Issiais started to get impatient and decided to create another destructive flame. Cruz tells Promises to protect the city. Promises cast a shield over the flames as it starts to crash down and break it. Once the shield breaks, everything went white, assuming they were dead. After a few seconds, everything pixelizes as DGO saved the entire city before it was hit. As everyone cheered, Cruz and Colo fly over Issiais. Colo manages to transform into the only alumni. Cruz then walks behind him with red hair, saying he would be the second. The two alumnis battle against Issiais once more with the better age. When he is knocked down, Tishorn appears back in his Titan form and slams the demon into the floor. As defeat grew closer, Issiais decides to transform and begin round 2. Issiais slashed through KO and 1v1 Cruise till they both got knocked out of alumni. He then decides to end it all, making a gained destructive flame and held it above the region. As he was about to throw it, a light shimmed down and Prince in a glowing aura punches the demon into the dirt, then grabs hold of the destructive flame and starts purifying it. Prince then looks back at the team in his new god form and launches the purified white flame down on Issiais till he is vaporized in the hit and disappears. That is the end of story 5. This was a much more engaging story than the last one. Issiais is a great character. Also, the story had new power-ups and new lasting characters. Here are 3 interesting facts about this story. Number 1. Issiais was a demon with honor. He gave PFR a chance to train, waiting his turn for battle, and even treated his guards with respect. However, demons lack emotions other than rage and calmness. He came to Earth not because he cared for Isha, but to defend his family name. Number 2. KO was thought to be the first alumni, but Cruise unlocked his sun point between story 4 and story 5 off-screen. However, unlike KO, Cruise knew how to activate it at will. Number 3. Julio was traveling in and out the Antiverse as something was calling out to him and giving him power in exchange for something. That's why Julio was able to deal with Xel and Phantom so easily. Also, Prince losing the Colo match helped him unlock God form in the end, saving everyone. Alright, that is it for this video.